Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind for quite a while, and that's the elephant in the room. $80 apartments. It seems to be this into the rainbow pot of gold type of deal, and I've talked about it with a lot of people. I actually had one. For 2 years, I had an $80 apartment, which ended up really being $160 to $180 apartment, so it wasn't really an $80 apartment. The reason I'm making this today is that I got a phone call. I talked to one of my good friends in the neighborhood where I used to live in the Philippines. And he said, I'm done. And my response was, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm looking to move. And I've decided, I've actually found a place, I've negotiated with the landlord, and I am moving. So he is actually moving. So he's like, I want to say the 7th or 8th person that I know that has left the neighborhood that I lived in the Philippines. And I asked him, I was straight up front blunt, why are you moving from that area? Why are you moving from that neighborhood? And he basically stated 4 reasons, and they were as follows. The number 1 reason was the power grid. And again, I had lived there for 2 years, and I had my power go out less times for me there than I have here in 7 months. I mean, they test the power here, and we had a couple of storms here in Thailand that knocked out power. So I think I've had power out 3 or 4 times here in Thailand. And I think that's in 7 months. And I had power knocked out maybe 2 or 3 times in 2 years in the Philippines. So I was intrigued. I'm like, okay, tell me more. He's like, yeah, so the power is real inconsistent now here. I'm like, okay, what else? He said, well, when the power is inconsistent, here now it turns off the water, and the water has been an issue since I moved in. This is my friend telling me this. And yes, water was an issue for me when independent contractors cut the water line in Philippines of my unit, of our units really, and replaced it with, I don't know, dental floss water. I mean, it's lines. It was tiny, the line they replaced it with. So my water pressure and my water flow for the last maybe half year in the Philippines it was horrible. And I had talked to my landlord about it, I had talked to the managers about it, and it was at least 6 months that it was bad. And so it's just one of those things where I like, just check one more reason, that I'm not comfortable. So that was his number 1, was the power and the water, which are tied in together. The number 2 reason, which is funny because it was my number 1 reason, and that's the noise. And I had him elaborate. And it wasn't for him, it wasn't just barking dogs and chickens, which there are plenty in my neighborhood that I lived in there. It was just the overall. The street that I lived on in Cavite, Teresa Montanez, when I first moved there, it was busy, it was a thoroughfare, but it was nowhere what it is today. It's literally like a freeway, and it's tiny. And I'm going to see if I can find some footage of it and put it up for you. It's ridiculously small, and they drive ridiculously fast. And so he said that is part of the noise issue he has. And there's a venue close by to us in the Philippines when I lived there. And when I first got there, even the Filipinos complained because they would go on till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was so loud, you could literally hear it for a quarter to a half mile away. And once the Filipinos complained, once we all complained, it, quieted down. However, I think they just had a marching band in there for 2 days. And so imagine being, let's say, 10 feet away from a venue that does this. Yeah. So, and the noise issue, I get some pushback. At this stage in my life, I don't want to have to turn on a white noise machine. I don't want to have to wear earplugs. I had an Airbnb tell me that, oh, just put on earplugs. No, I'm not paying rent, and I'm not at this point in my life that I have to put up with something like that. So for him, it was the power, it was the noise, and the third one, which was interesting, was the dust. So because we're so close to that road, and because the road is so busy, that it's always dusty and dirty there. And again, what bothers you, what doesn't bother you, what doesn't bother you, it's up to you. But that bothered him. And the last thing the last thing, the number four reason for my friend leaving was kind of the same reason I left. You know, I did come to the Philippines and Thailand for a different culture. I didn't come to really to be like Back to the Future. You know, my bathroom in the Philippines was in my $80 apartment. It was Filipino. You know, it was bucket shot. You know, I didn't have a hot water heater, which is my choice. I get it. However, the water pressure got so bad in this area that some people with water heaters, there was just not enough water pressure to push it on. So, and again, I'm not here to bash, complain. I'm here to tell you, give you information about $80 apartments. So my friend, decided that he wanted to go back to condo living. And so he negotiated a deal that was about 10,000 pesos for a nice condo unit. And that was all in with the dues. I doubt very much it was all in with the power. So, you know, he probably is going to be at 12,000 pesos with water. It's like $400 or $500. Internet in the Philippines, you have to pay for the internet. At least that's what I found. So he's probably going to be at 246. That's another 3,000 pesos. So he's probably going to clock out around 14 or 15,000 pesos, where he was at, let's say, 9 or 10,000 pesos at the 4,000, because you know the 4,000, 5,000. Because I think his rent was bumped up to 5,000, so $100. So at the 5,000, that's not your all in. You know, his power bill, he told me, ended up clocking out at 3,000 pesos. And then his internet, of course, was, you know, another 2,000 pesos at least. So, you know, can you see it? You could see that with your $80 to $100 or amount that you end up paying, you know, plus your amount of unhappiness, you know, where does that put you? So again, he is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's the fifth person that has left the neighborhood for similar reasons. We have one expat, a real good guy, kind of funny, as all of us expats are. So he lasted 2 months. My friend has lasted 4 or 5 months. I lasted 2 years. You know, and there's some other people that I know that have lasted a year or two. And some people, and I'm going to use this as an example of the good side of $80, $100 apartments. I know three expats that decided just to keep their apartment. You know, my friend from Germany, he's paying probably 5,000 pesos, and he's gone. I don't know. I think so far he's been gone 6, 7, 8 months out of the year. So he travels back over to Europe and just keeps the apartment as a place to come back to. And then I have another friend, and he travels around the world for business. So, you know, he's out 3 months out of 3 months here, 2 months here. And again, I have another friend, he's kept many units in that area, but he left the neighborhood because he wanted something bigger and quieter. So I guess that what I want to emphasize with all of you, and with me too, I had the same issue. I told you, one of our subscribers said, you know, Cheap Charlie, you know, these issues are because you're in a 4,000 and 5,000 peso apartment. And with that, I have to agree with him. The point being to all of this is, before you sign up, before you put down money on a 4,000 or 5,000 peso apartment, here's what I suggest you do. I suggest you make several trips. I mean, that's what I did. And, you know, it still worked out okay, but you make several trips. And I suggest you make a trip at nighttime so you can see what it's like at nighttime. And number 2, I suggest you do is meet your neighbors. Now that was the one thing, that was the saving grace. That was how I lasted so long in that neighborhood, was my neighbors. I had the nicest neighbors, Filipino, almost 80% Filipino. They were so kind and so nice, and they looked after me. That was how I lasted so long there. And they saw it too, and you know, they got it that, you know, that the noise factor for them it's known, it's not a noise factor for them. It's just life. However, for myself, and everybody has I told you before, a threshold of pain. So I wear earplugs because I used to work around motorcycles. I used to work around venues. There's the train going by. I used to work with and for music venues. I always had cans or I had earbuds on and in. Why? Because I value my hearing. When I ride my motorcycle, I've always had some kind of ear protection, and I suggest you do too. So what I'm trying to say though is that I have really good hearing. Ask anybody who knows me. I have uncanny hearing, and it's because I took care of my hearing. So what that means is that every freaking dog, every chicken, every karaoke, and I get it, it's their country, karaoke's cool. Here in Thailand, it's not so much. The karaoke, that is. And also, I just think that there's a overall quietness with the Thai people that's good and bad. I kind of like it because of the quiet. Some people don't, because of the language. So the point of this is before you sign on the line that is dotted, make sure you're clear on that 5,000 peso or 4,000 baht apartment. Make sure it's what you're looking for. Double check it. I would say that if you don't like it, you can move. And I would also say, if you don't like it, find out early and then do something about it. This is Rich in Thailand. Talk to you later.